Mutch Games.
Hey guys, Mutch Games here. I'm Thomas Mutch. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a behind the scenes look at my Mario Kart Live Home Circuit course, SNES Rainbow Road. That's right, I recreated the SNES Rainbow Road, one of my favorite courses to race in Mario Kart 8. And I'm going to recreate a few other of my favorite courses as well, so I hope you are looking forward to that. I have already purchased some components, and if you want to see other tracks, comment below and I'll see what I can do. Some of them are unrealistic, like I already got some people telling me Mario Kart 7 Rainbow Road. That just won't work with this game due to the length of the course and the signal and space, but I'll see what I can do, maybe one day. I think the next Rainbow Road I do would be the N64, just go in order, you know? So before COVID and Newsom shutting down California's entire entertainment industry, which directly affected my job, I actually used to be a mechanical designer in the entertainment industry. I have a degree in mechanical engineering, and I design stuff for companies such as Microsoft, Nintendo, Disney, Universal, events like Coachella, E3, Oscars, Rose Parade. So I have a pretty packed portfolio, and I always loved my job. It was so much fun, and I miss designing stuff like this. So that's basically was the inspiration for me to put my own time, my own money, and my own mind to work on recreating one of my favorite Mario Kart courses, and thus the SNES Rainbow Road for Mario Kart Home or Mario Kart Live Home Circuit was born. So in my industry, how the design process worked was I would get a contract from a client saying they want X, Y, and Z built, and then I would review the contract and be like, okay, this is what it looks like, this is what they bid, this is how much they're willing to pay for it. And then discussions started after the initial design based on the initial contract, and we would look over it, and then we would have a discussion, do a proposal, be like, okay, this is what it looks like you guys want, is this what you want? And then the exchanges started of, oh no, we don't actually want that, we want this, or yeah, that looks good. Oh, that if you want this, that would actually require more money, or yeah, that's within our budget, we can make it work. Sometimes you did a little bit of freebies, other times you would charge. It just depended on how vast the demand was for the change. And once the changes were all flattened out, or I should say once all the initial changes were flattened out, because there's always going to be change orders throughout the whole process, then you start designing and prototyping. So not everything requires a prototype, but with more mechanized stuff, it's good to have some simple prototypes, not too expensive, but for more complex mechanisms, then you're going to want to do some initial prototypes just to make sure that what your design on paper says will actually work the way and also look the way you intended on real life. The nice thing about SolidWorks is it does actually have some good features in it for motion studies, where pretty much what you see on the screen is what you're going to see on the floor. But I like making prototypes as well. I find it more enjoyable. I just love building stuff with my hands. And that's one thing that's a little bit rarer with me versus some other people in my industry, is the majority of the mechanism I designed I actually fabricated as well. Very few exceptions to that. So I have a lot of experience designing and building mechanisms. And for this Rainbow Road, I'm talking about all these clients and stuff. This was made for no one but myself and for you guys. I paid for it, I designed it, and I fabricated it. Everything involved in this course, I did. Based on the SNES Rainbow Road for Nintendo's SNES game. But like I said, this is no sponsors, this is all out of pocket and all my time put into this. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was a very fun project, and I look forward to building some more courses as well. So back to the design process. Now that you have the initial CAD done, the initial drawing package done, which you sent to the client for review, sometimes a prototype depending on the complexity of the design and if you needed one, and the red lines from the client, which are the corrections to that initial drawing package you sent them to review. And if the corrections are large enough, these red lines become change orders, where they weren't part of the initial scope, but it's something the client really wants. It becomes a change order where you change, or where you charge them more for that extra service or product. And so on and so forth. You update your CAD, You send the updated drawings to the clients, and it's just an ongoing process until you get to the point where they approve them. That's exactly what they want. You got all the red lines done, all the change orders done, and then you go to the fabrication process and construction, where then you're actually building what they asked for until you get to the point where it's completed, it gets reviewed. For mechanisms, they undergo testing to make sure the clients are happy with them and that they function as long as you guaranteed them for. And if there's any problems with them, then you make the updates and the testing restarts. And there still can be change orders at this point, where the client actually sees the physical product built now, and they're like, ooh, can we have it this way instead? Or, that looks great, let's move on. Here's your payment. Ship it to us. Or install it, depending on the job. Now, enough about the actual design process. Let's talk about how I made this one. So I don't have access to SolidWorks right now, or a lot of the tooling I'm used to, like a CNC machine. So I did a lot of the stuff by hand. I didn't make drawings for it. I just tested it out and went from there. So I went to Home Depot and bought 7 polycarbonate panels because acrylic was too expensive. And with the actual plastic protection they had on them, they created the perfect diffusion for the lights. However, I knew I was gonna have to peel off this panel just because they had stickers on them and stuff, and yeah, that wouldn't fly on the video when you see just a random blacked out section of the track. So what I did is, after I first bought the panels, I just bought a couple for the first batch. I just bought 3 of the 7 to see whether or not they would actually work. Originally for my video, I had planned on filming this in a different room in my house, so the media you see here is in a different room. What I did is I actually stacked the games 3 high and laid them out for the course track. But lo and behold, soon I found, hey, the car can't actually make those churns. It's too sharp. The car just doesn't have that good of churning radius, even if I lower it to 50cc, which is the slowest the cart will go. So even with drifting, with feather tapping, with 50cc, it did not actually make those churns. So I had to make it bigger. And hence the second trip to the store to get 4 more panels. Originally, like I said, I just bought 3 just to test it out and see how many panels I would need. I figured I would need just 2 more, but when I soon discovered how poor the turning radius actually was, then I was like, okay, I'm gonna need more panels here, and I settled on 7 because what you'll see in a moment. But yeah, like I said, since the track I learned about this too short a turning radius, I knew I had to move this into a different room of the house. However, when I was doing this video, I knew I'd be left alone at my household for over a week. So that's why I started doing it a week before with all the testing. Therefore, I knew what to order, the length of the lights, etc. At this point in time, I had only bought 1 50-foot length total, spanned across 3 spools of Dream Color Sync to Music LED rainbow lights. And what I was planning to do with this is similar to the polycarbonate panels I had bought, where I wanted to see, okay, how much do I need? Is this the right product? Or do I need to look for a different product to meet my need? And turns out both were actually exactly what I wanted. They had the right diffusion of light, and it was the right type of light. And I actually got to play with the LED settings as well. I will show you that in a little bit later, of the variety that you can actually do with this Rainbow Road, until I found the color that actually matched the Rainbow Road the best. I actually debated between having stationary rainbow lights or chasing rainbow lights. And I thought the chasing rainbow lights looked better. I actually pulled some of my friends that I was snapping a bunch of the course. I was like, hey guys, what do you think of this? What do you think of this? What do you think of this? They probably got annoyed by all my snaps, but some of them thought it was really cool as well, and were very much looking forward to the final product, and they gave me a lot of good feedback on this course to make it the best possible. At this time, I had also ordered the servos to make the thwomps. I had it in my head how I would do the mechanism. It was just going to be a simple lever action. I will get to that later in the video as well. But like I said, at this point in time, I actually checked the room size. It was too small, so I had to wait till everyone was gone for the week to finally make the course in the living room. So now that we're back in the living room, let's talk about how I designed the final product here. because you heard my prototyping, I will go into the prototyping of the thwomps a little bit here, but first I want to talk about the actual course layout. My first step was to use this tan tape to actually make a layout of the course, and this is how I actually got my final panel count as well for the acrylic panels, and settled on needing 7 total, which would be cut into 14 strips total. Basically what I did is first lay down the tape, and then I tested the cart along the track, and I actually made a few alterations to make it more like the game. I was like, okay, this isn't turning as well here. Oh, this is actually going to be a space issue here. And ultimately it was a space issue in a few places for the panels. That's why you'll notice the final product, a couple of them are actually overlapping. However, I settled on doing overlapping versus cutting them to length because I wanted to have the potential to use these panels in future videos, and I felt like it didn't deter too much, and occasionally you'll see a little circular hole. That's because these, once again, are COVID shields used for cashiers. They were the right thickness, right width, and right length, and it saved me a lot of time in the manufacturing process since I no longer have access to a CNC table. Plus, it was a lot cheaper to buy them that way. So therefore, I just bought these COVID shields and just cut them up how I wanted, but keeping all the lengths, all the widths identical, and thus causing some overlapping of just 2 of the panels, leaving all the holes in place. But yeah, like I said, I do want to use these for future videos, so that's why you see them the way that you do. Once I found out, okay, this is the right layout, this is the amount of panels I need, I actually started placing all the games in place. Just took parts of my game collection, yes, the same games you saw me use in my previous course, the Mutch Games Raceway Mario Kart Live course, where I actually made a racetrack out of my games. I used my physical game collection to actually make stacks 3 high, just because I found that to be the right height to actually give the lights enough time to diffuse properly. Now that I had all the games stacked, what I did is I made a second trip to Home Depot, bought those other panels I referred to earlier, and then I started cutting them with a jigsaw. It didn't have to be perfect because the edges were never going to be seen. They're going to be resting on top of the games, so I didn't worry about having too straight of a line, just as long as it was straight enough where the panels would be consistent when they're pressed against each other, and that's what they were in the end. They fit very well where you could barely see any light bleed through, but like I said, I wanted to use these panels in future videos as well. So what I did was I did not seam these panels, so you can actually see every seam from the panels. If I was going to make this a permanent track fixture, which is not, it's going to be cleaned up after I'm done shooting here, I would have actually hidden those seams like I did in a professional setting. But since this was just a quick video where it took me 2 to 4 days to do for parts to deliver, plus a earlier week of testing, I just decided I don't care if seams are showing, they will show, no one's gonna mind, and I think it turned out spectacularly. But like I said before, these panels that I had, they had these plastic on there that perfectly diffused the lights. But I actually had to peel the plastic off once it was cut because the plastic sort of got a little bit weird, started peeling off, and there was the tape on it as well for the sticker price that basically blacked out the track, and I didn't want to see that. So what I did to keep this finish looking as close to the original plastic wrap as possible was I peeled off the side that had the sticker on it, and then I sprayed that side with the Rust-Oleum frosted glass. And basically it's a clear transparent finish that actually gives it that diffusion look. However, I kept plastic on one side because I didn't want that frosted glass to rub off on my game collection. So the side with the plastic wrap was still on there, facing downwards, touching my game collection, while the frosted glass was upwards and touching the Mario Kart RC car. And the wheels did get a little bit frosty after that, but it gave the perfect appearance. Now, before I finished cutting these panels, I still had to wait on shipping for some items. As you know, I ordered some tape light to give the rainbow look, but I knew I didn't have enough of this since I had to increase the panel size. I also had to increase my amount of tape light. My tape lights actually worked with the original panel size, but since the drifting and all that stuff, I needed another one. In total, the laying of this tape light took around 2 to 3 hours of just stretching it out, putting it in the right orientation, doing the bends, and then laying down the tape. Like I said, I didn't want to reuse this, so I didn't want to make the tape too bent. So I did do a little bit of fudging so it's not exactly straight on the turns. It's a little bit wonky, but ultimately I figured you would never be able to see it from 3 games up on the diffuse panel. And from my test footage, it showed that that was accurate, so I kept it that way for the final video. I did adjust a few of the tape strips once my other tape had arrived, just to give it the right thing. I did actually redo a little bit of the length of the track as well, just to help turning go a little bit easier. Because one thing I discovered with this kart is the drifting actually does boost, just like in the game. So yeah, all of a sudden it accelerated and flew off the course a few times once I had all the panels laid down, once I had all the LEDs laid down. So yeah, I did redo the course a little bit right there after some play testing. But now, the moment you're waiting for, let's talk about those thwomps. So for the thwomp mechanism, I used an Arduino Uno to do the coding, and I used an MG995 control angle of 180 Metal Gear Servo 20 kg digital high-speed torque servo motor for the articulation of the mechanism. For the actual members itself, I use an erector set, so it is a little bit flimsy, a little bit shaky, but like I said, I was trying to keep costs down as much as possible to make it as simple as possible and to use components I could use in future videos that anyone could have at home. And yeah, so I used an erector set. I just figured that would be the simplest way to do it and be pretty fun, and it ended up being true. For the vertical support members, I actually just grabbed some old scrap wood and put it together as haphazardly as I could. No real design, just random place here, screw here, place here, screw here, place here, screw here. So yeah, just until I was strong enough to be stable. And then I used a cast iron piece to hold it down in place. That's why you see this random cast iron, branding iron, scenic piece from my house. That's just a counterweight. I used a breadboard to run all the wires and keep it secure while all keeping it in place in one location. Then I actually ran a wire straight from my Arduino underneath the course to my laptop in order to be able to change the code if needed and to make sure the alternating thwomps were accurate. So the final component were the thwomps. What I did is I just went over to Michael's and got some foam blocks, cut them up, used glow-in-the-dark blue paint as well as some white paint for the details, and that's the thwomps you see. The original test footage actually shows the thwomps, one being more rectangular and one having more of a 3D look with the curved edges. But once I put them side by side, it's like, oh, that left one looks way better. So I recut and repainted the right side as well, just so that they would relatively match. I did this really quickly, just so I could have thwomp representation. I debated whether or not to do an SNES N64 style thwomp, or more of a modern gray thwomp. And since I could only find glow-in-the-dark blue paint, as well as it looked better on camera that way, I decided to go with the SNES N64 era thwomps over the modern style thwomps. Plus, they were a lot easier to cut out of foam, so I went that way as well. In the future, I will be 3D printing some components for future raceways once I have the ideas down. So you can expect some more complicated features along the tracks in future videos. Now, you may not always be able to tell when the thwomps are articulating just because how quickly that section of the course is passed in the actual race video, but as you saw in that video, I did show some top-down angles as well, where you could see the course from a wider perspective instead of the car's little camera, and you actually got to see the speed of the thwomps in real time and how often they did articulate. And just having my computer off to the side allowed me to variate that quite a bit and actually get it fine-tuned where it felt good enough for the race, where it wouldn't be too difficult but also would be challenging enough where you had to make that split-second decision. And I actually had a few close calls where I saw a thwomp down, and just from the timing in my head I was like, oh, it's about to go up, it's about to go up, and I just slid right underneath it as it went up. And other times I slid right underneath it right as soon as it was closing, just missed it by a hair both times. And it just felt so good for me when I was able to pull those off because it just made it more fun. And had I gone the other way, I would have been stuck. And you might be wondering, in this test footage you see all these lights crisscrossing. How I actually blocked out the other LEDs that were crisscrossed that didn't match the pattern as well is I used little pieces of cardboard from the boxes and just taped over those, just so that their light wouldn't bleed through and create a very much distortion. And as you see these spools up to the side of the track right now, I just covered those with blankets and t-shirts until they could not be seen anymore. And since I was filming at night, I could get away with that. Also, you may notice that you can't see my recording equipment for this, and how around Thwomp Corner it did get a little bit diluted from the signal. That's because I didn't want any light bleed from the computer or my recording equipment to actually interfere with the ambience of this track. So I actually put that on my kitchen table and recorded there, turned the monitor away so I could actually not see the course when I raced. I was racing the entire course blind using my Pro controller to do this race, and it was a little bit challenging doing it that way. And that's also why you don't see me really using as many items as previous races, just because I wanted to make sure that I was turning the corners right, because this is actually a skilled course versus my previous course where it's just a casual course. It's a rainbow road, so you want it to be one of the hardest courses possible. You want it to be a lot of skill there. So I made this course in mind of, okay, you're gonna have to drift a lot just like in the game, and you're gonna have to feather tap the acceleration just so you don't run off the map. And as I mentioned earlier in this video, the hardest part of the map was just the boost you get after drifting. It's kind of hard to explain, but basically you feather tap the acceleration until your boost normalizes, and therefore you have a consistent speed throughout the video so you don't go flying off the course, because I was limited on space and budget. This course already ran me over 300 bucks, so yeah, didn't want to spend more than that. It already got a bit pricey by having to buy more LED strips and more panels than initially expected, but it seemed like it was worth it in the end because you guys enjoyed it. So you guys also talked about how short the video was. Well, yeah, it's a shorter course. So I wanted to show you this video so you could actually see additional footage that didn't get it into that original take, from both gameplay, top-down filming, etc., etc. Just the course during daytime, the course during nighttime, the test footage, everything to help you guys fulfill that satisfaction of, okay, now I've seen this course longer. You get to see all the blood, sweat, and tears I put into this course and trying to make it the best possible. So in conclusion, I really hope you enjoyed this behind the scenes look at my SNES Rainbow Road for Mario Kart Live home circuit on the Switch. I had a lot of fun making this. It was just really nice to design something after not being able to design something for a while due to my whole industry being shut down by Governor Newsom in California. So I just had a blast making this, and I miss doing this. I will be doing some future courses as well, so feel free to comment below which courses you want to see, and also if you'd like me to continue this behind the scenes looks at these courses. I might have been rambling a little bit here and there, but you just got to see how I think, my whole thought process, how I actually design the stuff in my professional life. And yeah, hopefully you got some good insight on me. I'm Thomas Mutch, and this has been a Mutch Games product. Thank you very much for watching. Please like the video, subscribe, etc. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.